bad as they come.
Okay, if you've ever seen Hellraiser and thought to yourself, well, that's enough nightmare fuel for a lifetime, you might have underestimated just how deep the rabbit hole of Cenobite lore truly runs. In Clive Barker's wonderfully warped world, we have Bound and Bound 2, two of the most terrifying and visually disturbing Cenobites ever. With a chip on their shoulders and an excess of leather straps, which can be a real conversation starter, they have the most bizarre and terrifying backstory imaginable. This one's all about the action, no warm fuzzies in sight. You have been warned, my friends, and in this marvelous video, we're going to be peeling back the layers, pun totally intended, of these pleasure-seeking demons. We'll explore their origins, how they became intertwined, a little too literally, with the Cenobite crew, and what makes their design so unforgettable in that, oh, I can't look away fashion. It's gory, it's dark, it's awesome, I mean gruesome, so let's jump right on in. Before we get too deep into it though, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. It's a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Bound? Bound, one of the franchise's more, shall we say, unique Cenobites, made her debut in Hellraiser Hellseeker, the 6th installment of the franchise. She's a member of Pinhead's macabre crew, famously known as Gash. Bound's life before becoming a Cenobite is a bit of a mystery, but rumor has it that she was married to a murderous lunatic. No one knows for sure though. After Hellseeker, Bound was replaced by Bound 2, her male counterpart in Hellraiser Deader and Hellraiser Hellworld. She's one of the lesser-known Cenobites in the series, sharing screen time, or lack thereof, with the surgeon Cenobite. Bound in Hellraiser Hellseeker. Bound may not have had the most prominent gig in Hellraiser Hellseeker, but she certainly left a haunting impression. Appearing alongside Surgeon, Stitch, Chatterer 3, and Pinhead, Bound's role in the movie was brief, but when you're a Cenobite, short still translates to unforgettably terrifying. In this new installment, Kirsty Cotton, the film's protagonist, returns and is much wiser than before. When Pinhead comes a-knockin' for her soul, she makes a deal with him and instead offers 5 souls in exchange for her own. Never one to pass up a deal brimming with sin, Pinhead agrees. Bound was one of the Cenobites who helped reap souls for Kirsty's little bargain. Trevor Gooden, the real sleazy spouse of Kirsty, was a real charmer, two-timing Kirsty and scheming with his pal Brett to grab her inheritance. When he learns about the lament configuration, he believes he can kill her if he can get her to solve the puzzle box. What he never expected was that Kirsty was already 2 steps ahead of him. In the end, Trevor ended up being one of the souls sent directly to Pinhead, where he was put into eternal limbo. Bound makes a cameo in Trevor's limbo, appearing on a television screen and suffocating one of his mistresses. It's that kind of moment that stays with you. After this, Bound vanishes from the Hellraiser universe, and what happens to her next is unknown. She's never seen or heard from again. It's possible she's still out there, plotting her next terrifying entry. Or maybe she's just enjoying the serenity of hell. We can only guess. In any case, she certainly knows how to keep us on our toes. The appearance of Bound the Cenobite. Bound's look in Hellraiser Hellseeker is one of those once you see it, you can't unsee it kind of deals. That's just how it works. The Cenobite style hides nothing but plain horror. Everything about her, from her looks to her aura, screams pain, and she totally owns it. Her eyes and mouth are covered by 2 heavy leather straps, leaving her blind and mute. Somehow, that strangely makes her even more terrifying. On top of that, she has metal wires piercing into her flesh to secure the straps in place around her head. Yeah, that's gotta hurt. And if that weren't enough, a ring of nails is embedded into her scalp like a crown, pulling her skin tight. Her entire head is a hideous piece of art, with skin stretched and stapled in a way that's strangely captivating. Her pale, scarred skin, which seems like it has just gone through hell and back, tells a story of survival. And with her stoic presence, she might just be judging you silently. Every inch of her horrific design has a chilling, intentional terror, as if she's a living example of the haunting fact that in pain and beauty are best buddies in the world of Hellraiser. If she had a tagline, it would likely be, "You can't escape pain, but you can make it hella stylish." Who is Bound 2? Continuing the series' fondness for eerie, strapped-up looks, Bound 2 enters in Hellraiser Deader as the masculine polar opposite of the original Bound Cenobite. Now, this is where things get interesting. Bound 2 might not have a direct backstory that links him to Bound, but those visual similarities are hard to miss. It's like the same concoction but in a fresh glass, topped with new splashes of misery and agony, and voila, we have Bound 2. Perhaps he was destined to carry her legacy, or maybe the Hellraiser designers simply decided straps and staples were a hit last time, why not bring them back? Unfortunately, there isn't much story or screen time for Bound 2, and the details are limited on his backstory, so we'll never know. Along with the rest of the Cenobite crew, Bound 2 executes Pinhead's orders without displaying any personality, making him more of a supporting villain. Despite this, his presence is a nod to the original Bound and serves as a reminder that hell has a type, and that type is all about straps, scars, and a whole lot of silent suffering. Bound 2 in Hellraiser films. The title of the film, Hellraiser Deader, is, well, let's just say it's an interesting choice. Sure, deader is a real word, but between us, and let's be honest, when was the last time you heard someone say it, or better yet, used it yourself? Because in my entire life, that word just hasn't come up, not once. And for a horror movie sequel, it feels like the writers were practically shouting, "You thought they were dead? Haha, well now, they're deader." As if that makes any sense. But that's not even the strangest part of naming the installment Deader. The word doesn't even mean more dead here. Wait, what? Well, let's roll with whatever we're served. The plot follows Amy Klein, an American journalist in Britain whose boss sends her to Romania to look into a mysterious videotape. The tape has footage of a woman shot in the head during a strange ritual, only to be revived when a man breathes into her mouth. Well, looks like we've got a little cult action going on with the Deaders. It seems they have this entire routine of dying once, returning, and then dying again, which makes them even more dead. Oh, okay, we now understand the deader in the title. So deader is a noun, not an adjective. You already died once, so when you die again, that makes you deader. Seems like we finally cracked the title, and honestly, figuring that out was more frightening than the actual movie. Oof, we digressed pretty hard there, but now that it's out of our system, let's talk about Bound 2 in the movie. Although he doesn't play a major part, his unsettling presence heightens the haunting atmosphere of the movie. Who or what Bound 2 was before he became a member of the Cenobite Club is a complete mystery, but Bound 2 is one of the Cenobites that seems to carry out Pinhead's orders. In the end, Amy Klein is on the brink of surrendering her soul to the eerie Deader cult, but instead of going through their whole unsettling resurrection ritual, she takes a little risk by solving the lament configuration once more. Because of this, Pinhead's henchmen, Bound 2, Little Sister, Chatterer 3, and Stitch show up at the ritual. As Pinhead ruthlessly slaughters the Deader squad, Bound 2 watches from the shadows. After the Deaders are no longer in the equation, Pinhead now approaches to claim Amy's soul, and Bound 2 follows to do his share in assisting. But Amy wasn't one to let go so easily. She pulls off one last trick. Amy stands firm against giving her soul to Pinhead and instead chooses to kill herself. This disrupts Pinhead's plans, leading to the lament configuration exploding in a final explosion that bends reality. As the entire building comes crumbling down, Bound 2, Pinhead, and the remainder of the gash are sucked back into hell. Although Bound 2 may not have a major narrative arc or a huge amount of screen time, his role carries a symbolic weight. He captures the inescapable suffering that Pinhead and his gash inflict, acting as an apparent reminder of the torment that lies in wait for those who dare to tamper with the lament configuration. The Deader's obsession with death and resurrection and the appearance of Bound 2 highlights the consequences of tampering with powers that far exceed human understanding. Despite his brief appearance, Bound 2 makes you squirm just enough to remember him, just like any good Cenobite. Bound 2 makes his return in Hellraiser Hellworld, where a group of Hellraisers, hardcore Hellraiser gamers, Chelsea, Mike, Derek, Allison, and Jake, are drawn into a Hellraiser-themed party. It turns out that the host is the grieving father of Adam, their friend who passed away not so long ago. Also, the father was most certainly not there for drinks and mingling. In fact, he drugs the group, buries them alive, and lets them go into a collective nightmare in which the Cenobites, especially Bound 2, unleash chaos. We didn't see this one coming. Bound 2 truly comes into his own when Mike accidentally walks into his worst nightmare. Bound 2 starts a terrifying machine, and Mike is dragged by the device, which pierces him with hooks and causes him to die in his hallucinations. But in reality, Mike is completely unscathed. Terrified, but unscathed. Although, we can't say the same about his emotional state. In the middle of this nightmare, Bound 2 manipulates Chelsea and Jake with the help of Chatterer 3, Pinhead, and distorted hallucinations of Mike and Allison. With their friends dead and the faint line between reality and terror totally obscured, they go through endless torture. Eventually, They uncover the truth and return to the real world, where the cops find them. Adam's enraged father attempts to make his exit while holding the lament configuration clutched tightly in his grasp. Driven by his sorrow and desire for vengeance, he unlocks the box and unwittingly calls upon the actual Pinhead, Bound 2, and Shatterer 3. It was no longer a hallucination. This time, it was all too real. Pinhead, who is always eager to wrap up loose ends, admits he should have taken possession of the host earlier. He gives the order to Bound 2 and Shatterer 3 to complete the task. In a horrific conclusion to his sick scheme, the pair chops through the host with their weapons. In this film, Bound 2 really goes beyond merely increasing the body count. He truly personifies Hell's unwavering fury. Whether it's a hallucination or the real thing, Bound 2 is always there to remind you that messing about with the lament configuration will never end well for anyone. Appearance of Bound 2. Bound 2's appearance in Hellraiser declares pain is the new black. He's one of the most aesthetically disturbing members of Pinhead's gash, and there's no two ways about it. His face, or lack thereof, is the first thing that catches your eye. Just like the original Bound, Bound 2 loves his leather straps. His eyes and mouth are all wrapped up just like Bound's, and he has that same blind and mute but still threatening vibe. The staples and wires holding those straps, it's the franchise's signature brand of creepy. The straps are secured by harsh metal wires coiled around his head, digging into his scalp. With the metal wires coiled around his head like a distorted crown, he has pale, scarred skin and a disfigured face. Echoing Pinhead's signature style, Bound 2 wears a snug black leather suit. The leather, it seems, is almost melded with his skin, turning him into a living mix of man, machine, and, oh, of course, suffering. How could we forget? Every detail of his outfit is sharp and is sure to make you squirm. The main difference between Bound and Bound 2, aside from gender, is all in the head. Quite literally. While the original Bound has nails stretching the skin of her scalp, Bound 2 does not. Perhaps Hell decided to keep it simple this time, or maybe Bound 2 didn't agree to scalp stretching. However, the overall aura of Bound 2 is still as disturbing as She-Bound. No cutting corners there. Marvelous verdict! While the origin story of Bound and Bound 2 is filled with torture and change, it also highlights why Hellraiser is so effective at making us feel extremely uneasy in a good way. Whether it's their creepy appearance or the terrifying tales that shaped them, they are walking cheek nightmares. With full emphasis on the word nightmare. It's truly impressive to see the depth and imagination that shaped these characters, even if that imagination might keep you awake at night. So, next time you catch the faint click-clack of chains at a distance, you might want to reconsider solving that enticing puzzle box in your hand, because you just never know. That's all we got for you this time, but if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.